otherwise known as the Seiko and Neighborhood Collaboration Limited Edition model. So for those of you who don't know what Neighborhood is, it's a hype or streetwear brand in Japan, and they're pretty big. They're similar to Beams. So when you think of Beams, Neighborhood's kind of the same thing, and it kind of gives you the same vibe too, with this all black box, and then it has like this reflective silver writing up there. It's cool they listed all the specifications of the movement right here on the front of the box. I've never seen that done before. There you go. There's the barcodes. So let's open it up, take a look. Alright, so inside you just get this nice old black watch box. Cool. And here is the mechanical watch instructions, as well as the Japanese warranty card. So this model was JDM only, so that's why you only get the Japanese warranty card with it. Let's open up. So inside the box just says Neighborhood and Seiko Limited Edition, and the old black theme continues in here. Take this out. So these are the hang tags that were on the watch. You have this prospects tag, and then you have the actual hang tag right here, and there's the price, 76,000 yen. Wow, there's the watch. Let's get it off this pillow. So believe it or not, this model was actually very popular, and it was limited to 1,000 pieces, which is pretty limited for a Seiko, but for an average watch it's not that limited. And believe it or not, it still sold out really quickly. I remember when it released and the website actually sold out within just a couple minutes, if not a minute exact. This one was one of the most highly sought after collaboration pieces, and right off the bat you can kind of see why. It has this baby tuna nickname for this model, or the safari tuna, because it was kind of made as more of a street diver, if that makes any sense, since the main tuna was like this big professional saturation diver. Then they kind of slimmed it down, reduced the depth rating or the water resistance, and kind of gave it a more slimmed down, smaller case, compact design. And that kind of gave it that nickname, the street tuna. And you also get this strap, which has the faux grain leather pattern. So that kind of made it feel more of like the Street Series Seiko watches, like the Seiko 5 Sports Street Series. It's a very similar band to that, except you still have the accordion style strap like the tuna has. So they still wanted to stay true to their professional diver route. 200 meters, it's still one of the big boy Seiko divers, and it does have a loom pip, so everything else is pretty nice and pretty standard. But you can kind of tell why this watch was so popular. It has this really nice blackout, except the bezel, which you would expect to be black, is actually this gray, and you have that red triangle on the 12 o'clock marker on the bezel, as well as this faux loom, kind of faux aged loom indices and hands as well. So it kind of gives it that vintage diver feel, which is really cool because this model is not particularly a common vintage piece, but they kind of took advantage of the fact that when this watch came out, it was the first diver of this style in this size. So this is a 39 millimeter, kind of shrouded, so it kind of looks, it's technically a 42 or even a 43 millimeter, but it's actually much smaller than that if you take the shroud away. And because it's all black, and because the shroud is black as well, and the dial is black, and the dial is actually a small size, so it makes the watch actually look a lot more compact and smaller than it really is. And it really is pretty small, but I think it's still a good fit. But that was the norm back then, and that's kind of what this is, kind of playing tradition to that. And I love how the dial is this nice glossy black dial. It's not matte finished, and I actually like the glossy black because I like seeing like the shines and the reflections versus the matte, which doesn't have that. I know it's something to do with legibility, but I just like the overall aesthetic of this better. I also love how it has that red Neighborhood signature right there on the dial. It looks really good. A lot of people hate the fall loom. You know what? I don't mind the aged loom, the faux aged loom. I think it looks pretty good. And on the back, typical Seiko business, it says Neighborhood Tokyo. You got the wave off Kanagawa right there to let you know this is a legit Seiko diver, not playing around, 200 meters. And this is out of 1,000 pieces. And you still have it at the bottom of this strap as well. So really nice. And just for reference, I'm going to show you guys, was somewhat large for its time, but old watches were getting large when the SKX came out, and that's kind of when they blew out their proportion with this. You could see just from the dial, like the dial presence of the SKX is way larger, but this watch is very clean, and I really love the aesthetic of this as well. If I put them side by side like this, you can see they're not that far off, but just because of the dial and the color black also makes things look smaller versus a lighter color. This is a navy, so it's still dark, but this just overall with the indices and everything just looks like a much smaller package. And also on the keeper here, the strap keeper, it also has that Neighborhood signature on it, which is a very nice touch. And the case and The hardware and everything is done in this kind of blacked out package, but it's not fully blacked out like Seiko's other watches. It has a reflective property, so I'd say it's more of like a gunmetal gray or like a really dark gray. It's black, but it has a shine to it, so it's like between dark gray and black. Some of the other Seiko divers you can see have like that almost painted on black look to them, and this is not one of those. Another thing I wanted to show you guys about this watch is really cool is it has blue lume, which I don't know any Seiko model which ever has blue lume. They always have that signature green lume, but the blue looks super cool. And here I'm comparing it next to the green lume, and you can just see how cool that looks. Very unique and really nice. So you can't say only Rolex and Tudor have blue lume. Seiko does have it, just in very special pieces. All right, let's get it on wrist and see how it fits. All right guys, here it is on my 6.5 inch wrist, and fits beautifully. The proportions are amazing. You can see the straps and a good chunk of them versus my other watches, so there's that. And the keeper, the strap's not too long. Everything looks and feels amazing, and it's just a very comfortable watch. It's pretty light also. I'm not sure if this one is titanium like the actual Tuna. I think this one might be steel, but it's still very light. And that 4:30 date does a really good job of not interrupting the symmetry of the hour markers and the indices. So I think it looks very nice. But overall, just a very cool limited edition piece. Definitely one that I think belongs in an ideal Seiko collection. It's just looks like a very nice switch up to the typical divers. I really like the different aesthetic of it. And this is part of the Prospects line, and it retails for roughly $750 when you do the conversion. Obviously this sold out so quickly, so you can imagine the gray market has these things jacked up pretty high. I think if you can get it for less than $1,000, that's a pretty good price, but who am I to stop you? If you guys see it and it's in really good condition and it's whatever price it may be, if you're happy with it, just go for it. I think it's awesome. And like I said, even though it's limited to 1,000, that's a lot of pieces, but since it's so sought after, it's very tough to obtain these. All right guys, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.